Hi all, I'm Prerna Singh and I'm a data science enthusiast with 4+ years of experience in Edureka, which is an Indian e-learning platform. I help professionals who are interested in the domain of data science by curating industry-aligned content for them. I have hands-on experience with data science tools, including programming skills in Python and database query languages like SQL and Hive, machine learning algorithms, both supervised as well as unsupervised, big data tools such as Hadoop and Apache Spark, and data visualization tools such as Tableau. There's no question that data science is currently a hot topic in the tech world and will be a booming career for years to come. In fact, a data scientist is amongst the highest paid professionals in the industry right now. The average salary for an entry-level data scientist with less than 1 year of experience is approximately rupees 6 lakhs per annum. In this video, we're going to brief you on the top beginner-level data science projects that you can add to your portfolio to make it stand out. Now, please keep in mind that this list will be purely subjective and in no particular order. So without much ado, let's get started. Now, first of all, let's talk about who is a data scientist and what do they do on a regular day at work. So data scientist is someone who's responsible for collecting, analyzing, and interpreting extremely large amounts of data for actionable insights. Sounds very similar to what an analyst would do, right? Then why is it that data scientists earn almost double than data analysts? Because data scientists go one step ahead than only extracting insights from the data. And this is where the difference lies. Their job also involves predicting the future based on the patterns that they find in the data. Let me give you an example. So for an XYZ company, let's say, the sales data has been gathered until a certain date. Now, the job of a data scientist would be to analyze this data, and based on it, they will predict how much profit the company would make in the next sales period or the next year. So data analysis is one of the key skills that are required for the job role of a data scientist. Now let's talk about other must-have skills as well. So as you can see on your screen, an aspiring data scientist needs to have a strong foundation in mathematical concepts like probability, statistics, and linear algebra. Of course, data science is essentially about programming, so programming skills are mandatory. Python and R are the most favored programming languages in data science. Data wrangling is the process of preparing your data for further analysis. So data scientists must know how to transform the data by cleaning and processing it into a relevant form. Next, we have data visualization, which refers to the graphical representation of the findings from the data. So visualizations effectively communicate patterns in the data and lead the data scientist to draw relevant conclusions from it. Now, since the job of a data scientist centers around decision making, machine learning is the most demanded skill. Deep learning is a subfield of machine learning, which is actually a subset of the entire data science ecosystem. Now, before we start with our project, the project list, let's understand how to start with any of your data science project that you're going to work on. So first off, you need to identify and define the problem that you're trying to solve. So the objectives of your problem should be clear even before you begin with the project. The next step is data collection. So at this stage, you need to acquire all the data that is required to solve your problem. Now, this is a time-taking task as it involves research on the data, finding it, collecting it, or scraping it from the internet. For the purpose of our projects, we'll be using open source data sets that are easily available on platforms like Kaggle. Next, you need to prepare your data. Now, this step involves data cleaning, which is the process of removing redundant and missing values from the data. So this is considered to be one of the most time-consuming and important stages in data science. Now, while you're preparing your data for analysis, you also need to pre-process and transform your data, particularly if it is unstructured. The next step is to perform exploratory data analysis to detect patterns and trends in your data. At the end of this stage, you must start to form a hypothesis about your data and the problem that you're tackling. Now, based on this hypothesis, you will figure out a machine learning solution to address the problem. Now, this stage involves choosing a model that you believe would best solve your problem. So after you've chosen your model, you will train it on the training data, and then you will evaluate it on the testing data set. At the last stage, you must try to improve the efficiency of your model so that it can make more accurate predictions. Now, let's start with the very first project that we have on our list, that is the breast cancer detection or breast cancer diagnosis. So this project involves building a model which predicts whether the tumor is benign or malignant. Now, this is a classification type of a problem that can be solved using both unsupervised learning techniques such as clustering or supervised learning classifiers. The dataset that is being used in this project is the breast cancer Wisconsin dataset that can be obtained from the UCI machine learning repository, as you can see over here. So you can download the dataset from here, and you will find all the information related to your data on this page, the source, the creators, along with the attribute information. Alternatively, we can also find the dataset on Kaggle. So as you can see over here, you can download your data from here on Kaggle. It has 32 columns. This page talks about all of the summary of the data that you're using. Okay. Now let's move on to our next project, which is customer segmentation. So this is an unsupervised learning problem that can be solved using clustering algorithms. For example, k-means. Now these algorithms will divide the customers into clusters, and each cluster is then a group of customers who will exhibit similar behavioral characteristics and purchase patterns. The data set being used in this problem is the mall customer segmentation data, which can again be found on Kaggle. So as you can see over here, our dataset has 5 columns: the customer ID column, gender, age, annual income, and spending score. So you can download your dataset from here and start working on your project. Next up, we have fake news detection system. So when you're getting most of your news from social media outlets, it's very easy to spread and consume fake news because it becomes very hard to rely on the authenticity of the news, right? So in this project, you will be building a classifier model using Python to identify whether the news is real or fake. So we'll be making use of the fake news analysis data that can again be found on Kaggle. So as you can see over here, this is a fairly larger data with 30 MBs of size. It has 4 columns: the ID column, a title or a headline column, a text column, and a label column, which has information on whether the data, the news is real or fake. So since this is a label data set, we'll be using supervised machine learning techniques, particularly classification. Next up, we have cryptocurrency price prediction. So in this project, we'll be predicting the price of the most popular cryptocurrency out there, which is Bitcoin. For this, we'll build a time series ARIMA model. Now, the time series forecasting problems analyze patterns in time-dependent data to make the predictions about the future. So your cryptocurrency prices, your stock values, all of these are time-dependent data. They keep the value the value keep changing with time. So such type of problems are solved using time series analysis. All right. Next, we have movie recommender system. So let's first understand what a recommender system is. Now, a recommender system or a recommendation engine is a system which provides suggestions to the users through a filtering process that is based on user preferences and browsing history. So think of Amazon. The frequently brought together section of the app is a recommender system at work. Or let's talk about how Netflix and Amazon Prime suggest movies to the users. So whenever you go and select a movie that you want to watch, your information is taken as input by the recommender system. Now, this information reflects the prior engagement of that movie, its ratings, and other characteristics. Now, based on what other users who have watched this particular movie have enjoyed, you will be suggested a similar movie to watch next. So there are 2 types of recommendation systems: a content-based recommender system and a collaborative filtering recommender system. So for this project, you'll be working on the latter one. Now, the data set, as you can see over here, that we'll be using in this project is the movies data set. We can again find it on Kaggle. So this data set lists about 45,000 movies and is an amalgamation of multiple data sets, as you can see over here. So you can download all of these data sets, you can combine and perform data processing on the data sets, and then you can start working on your model. All right. Next project that we're going to discuss today is the Twitter sentiment analysis. So the sentiment analysis falls under natural language processing. And this is a project, not project, sorry. This is a process of extracting opinions that have different polarities. By polarities, we mean positive, negative, or neutral. Now, this is also called opinion mining or polarity detection. So, with the help of sentiment analysis, you can find out the nature of opinion that is reflected on a social media platform or a website, etc. So, sentiment analysis is a type of classification where data is classified into different classes. So, these classes can either be binary in nature, like positive or negative, or they can have multiple classes, like happy, sad, angry, etc. So the aim of this particular project is to build a sentiment analysis model, which will allow you to categorize the words in a tweet. And based on the sentiments that are reflected in the tweet, we'll be classifying whether the tweets are positive, negative, and to what extent. So the project will also talk about the magnitude of the sentiment. Now let's move on. So the next project we have is handwritten digit recognizer. So this project is based on developing a model which is able to recognize digits written by hand. So it's a comparatively hard task for a machine because each digit that is written by hand would be shaped differently. Different people have different handwritings, right? So for this, we'll be using deep learning algorithm techniques, which is particularly convolutional neural network, which is also known as CNN. So CNN is majorly used for image recognition in deep learning. Now, the data set that we'll be using in this project is the MNIST digit recognizer data set that you can download from Kaggle. So this is one of the most popularly and widely used data sets in deep learning. This data set contains around 60,000 training images of handwritten digits and around 10,000 images for testing. And it also has 10 different classes. This is particularly the Hello World data set of computer vision. Okay, so the next project that we'll discuss is credit card fraud detection. So this is a classification and boosting type of problem. So when you're working on this project, you'll go through various classification algorithms like decision tree, logistic regression, gradient boosting classifiers, etc. And then you'll boost your models to achieve a final model with the best possible accuracy score. So better the accuracy score, better will be the predictions that is made by the final model. So for carrying out this project, you will be making use of the fraud detection dataset that is available on Kaggle again. And this dataset will contain both fraudulent as well as authentic transactional records. Now, this next project is a very interesting one. So countless number of people who drive on the highway during the day or night, be it taxi drivers, bus or truck drivers, or just people who are traveling long distances, might be driving on lack of sleep. So it's natural to get drowsy, and this can quickly become a very dangerous situation. So in this Python project, you will be making a drowsiness detection system to prevent accidents which happen from sleepy drivers. So we'll be using deep learning concepts of OpenCV and Keras to build a model that will detect if the driver is drowsy and alert them each time. So every time their eyes close or they yawn, there will be a beep that will go off. All right. So the data set that is used over here is the drowsiness data set. This is again available on Kaggle. So as you can see over here, there are multiple images of closed eyes, open eyes, yawning, and no yawn, so that the algorithm can understand and learn from these images and then detect whether whether our driver is drowsy or not. And last but not the least, we have a traffic sign recognition project. So we're all aware of self-driving cars, right? But to make these cars actually reliable, it is necessary for them to understand and interpret the traffic signs correctly and make decisions accordingly. So this project is about building a traffic sign recognition system using deep learning algorithm again. So we've talked about CNN before. It is used for image recognition. So here our algorithm will be fed data which has a number of images, and based on this our algorithm will learn and perform traffic sign recognition to the best possible accuracy. So the data set that is used here is the German traffic sign recognition benchmark data set. It can be obtained from the INI benchmark website. So as you can see here, you can download your data set from here, or you can simply download it from Kaggle as usual. So these were a few beginner-friendly projects that can be added to your resume if you are an aspiring data scientist. Now, an impressive resume is very important to catch the interests of employers, right? So before we wrap up, I'd like to discuss a few helpful tips on how to include your data science projects in your portfolio. So creating a professional portfolio begins by collecting examples of your work, such as evaluations, reports, and specific materials that you will be using while designing your project. Next, you will describe your projects briefly and emphasize the skills, the tools, and the programs that you use throughout the development of your project. Now, it's always appreciated by employers if you include links to your projects on your resume. These links can guide them to your GitHub profile. So, Git is an increasingly used platform by data scientists today, and having a functioning knowledge of Git along with a pre existing profile on GitHub will always earn you brownie points. You can highlight any skills that you have developed while working on your projects. And if these skills overlap with the ones that are mentioned in the job description of the role that you're applying for, then it's even better. And last but not the least, demonstrate how your data science projects add to the business value in your desired role. So that's all for today. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to Naukri Learning channel for more such content in the future.